Nobody gives a damn about Epstein because he's still dead. Okay, he's still dead. No one gives a damn. Nobody gives a poop.
You don't give a poop. Okay, other people do, including people like me who want justice.
We can't waste our time on Epstein and other stuff that are going on here that some people want us to focus on. I'm about had it with all that stuff.
I'm asking right now. I'm asking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, if you think Donald Trump is covering up the Epstein stuff, what is it that you think he is covering up and why? Can you please just explain it?
I would love for them to release the files. I am not at all in Trump's base. However, I care deeply about it because I'm not going to buy this argument that like these young girls were raped by what? By what? Did they rape themselves? No, they got raped by people who are in powerful positions. And I want to know how many of those individuals are currently serving in our government in some role or the other.
American awake for 18 hours a day. How many minutes do you think they spend worrying about this stuff? Maybe they were raped, maybe they weren't. This is not what American families give a damn about.
Last night, Anna went on CNN Newsnight, where she discussed the Epstein files. But as you just saw, her fellow panelist, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, as he's known, was not as concerned about how Epstein and almost certainly others abused young girls. Here's more of Kevin O'Leary and Anna debating the issue.
Nobody gives a damn about Epstein because he's still dead. Okay, he's still dead. No one gives a damn.
No, people give a damn.
What they care about, look at the American economy right now. A lot of people had a lot of mistrust on the tariff issue. Economy's on fire. The average person at the kitchen table is not worrying about Epstein. Don't give a damn. They want to provide for their family, and they are.
The Epstein client list that's going to take down all of your Democratic enemies.
Bring it.
Yeah, well, yes, bring it. Donald, please. Donald,
nobody gives a poop.
You don't give a poop, okay? But other people do, including people like me who want justice. And I want to know how many of those people are in our government.
I don't know about
poop about this.
There's more to life than the American economy. There's justice and the fact that we might have pedophiles serving in our government right now.
Oh my goodness, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what people care about is how to feed their families and how the economy grows and take care of their futures. This stuff is poop on a stick. Nobody gives. I gotta stop.
Now, Cenk, I want to bring you in here. We have more, but what do you make of these clips? This idea that nobody cares and that they're only worried about the economy. There's some truth to that, but I think there's more to it.
Yeah. It's not hard to figure out that you can care about both things. So for example, I care a lot about the economy and I think that the average American is getting screwed. I think we should have higher minimum wage, we should have lower drug prices, etc. Does that mean my brain is too small to fit Gaza into it? No, I could also want justice for the Palestinians. Wow, look at that, I did two things at the same time and my brain didn't break, okay? So it's weird how much Kevin O'Leary doesn't want to talk about the Epstein files. So as I was watching that live, I thought, he's super dismissive. I don't think Anna's gonna let him get away with that, right? And then Anna jumps in and starts saying what you guys just heard there. And as she was going and going, I thought, she's gonna provoke him into saying something crazier, and she did. That's when he said the first thing that we showed you guys, maybe they were raped, maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't? That's a new one. I mean, because Trump said maybe the files don't exist and the clients don't exist, but no one's ever said the girls weren't raped. Like everyone concedes they were until now. And because it turns out Kevin O'Leary thinks it's poop on a stick. Oh, I don't even know what that means. And then there's a couple more things here, and we'll get to all the arguments, Jordan, as we watch more of it. But I'll say one more thing for now. When he said in that clip, she says, those pedophiles raped those people and might be in our government now, or at least the people protecting them, right? And he said, oh my goodness, that's terrible. Wait, you don't think that's terrible? You think like he's being sarcastic? Like, is that no big deal that we're covering up for pedophiles? And that seems like that's his main argument. Oh, hundreds of girls, underage girls were raped. Who cares who raped them? No one, he said it a million times. No one cares. It's not a big deal. If they're in the government, also not a big deal. If it's being covered up, well, you know what? Maybe we should cover it up more. Maybe they were raped. Maybe they weren't even raped. Maybe they don't even exist. I don't know what conspiracy theory Kevin O'Leary is cooking up. But look, to me, Jordan, as I look at that, this is why you need people like us on cable news. Because otherwise, all this stuff just doesn't get challenged nearly well enough.
Yeah, I think the idea that people don't care is a laughable one. Like, we've seen Trump supporters for years focus on this, talk about it. He made it a part of his campaign. People in his orbit have talked about this and promised that transparency would be delivered by the Trump administration. So this idea that people, certainly on the right, don't care is laughable, but there's a large contingent on the left. And I think it's not just because this is such a sensational story. It is, and there are people who are invested in finding out more about what's in those files, who was involved, but it reflects a broader problem and a broader concern in American society, which is that elites don't face any repercussions for their actions. And you have people on both sides of the aisle who are likely involved, and donors on both sides of the aisle who are likely involved. And my read on all of this is that both parties don't want this coming out. While there are some on the left right now who are saying we should release the files, I think the reason you didn't see that during the Biden administration was to protect the wealthy elite on the left who were involved and who donate to Democrats and super PACs. They're just protecting their insiders club. We're not in that club. It's a big club, but we're not in it. And that's why I think the average American you're seeing a majority of average Americans interested in finding out what's in those files because they want some accountability for obvious wrongdoing. What do you think?
Yeah, and so the other thing that was driving me crazy about what O'Leary was saying is, well, the markets are doing well. And he repeated that at least 200 times in that 1 hour episode, right? Okay, but brother, the markets are fickle and they go up and down. And so I'm noting for the record that you're saying the Trump administration should be judged on the markets. Because later when they turn down, I don't want you saying, oh, it's no big deal, it's no big deal, it's okay, it happens. No. This is the same thing when, Biden's got high gas prices. Oh, goddamn, president has high gas prices. Trump comes in, gas prices go up. They're like, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. Okay, so yeah, I got it. You're a weirdo partisan. And yes, for Kevin O'Leary, but there is some chance that he would actually criticize Trump because to him, the golden calf story in the Bible is literal. Like, it's the Wall Street bull, right? It's like a golden calf to him, and he worships that day and night. So he's like, the markets. But you know, the girls didn't have to get raped for the markets to do well. Those two things are separate, right? You could care about justice. If you said to him, hey, you know what? CVS is having a massive problem with their inventory and it's affecting their stock price because people keep stealing from CVS. You would say, that's really important. I'd be like, why? The market's doing well. Why, Kevin? Why are you all excited, right? Imagine somebody did corporate espionage and stole a whole bunch of money from one of his beloved corporations. You'd be like, oh, it's outrageous. Why, Kevin? What's the big deal? The markets are doing well. Why don't we let all the prisoners go? Markets are doing well, so let's just have no justice at all. And you know what? So you don't want to arrest these pedophiles. You said it was no big deal, right? Should we let the other pedophiles go? Do you think the market is connected to that? Is the market talking to you now, Kevin? Okay, is it in the room with us? Okay, I get it, you're obsessed with the markets, but not everything is about that, and we could actually have justice here. And the idea, and this is the overall and larger point, Jordan, is the media pretending that the American people don't care, and that what the government is saying is normal. No, it is not normal to say that no one raped those girls. That is not normal, that's a conspiracy theory. In fact, this is what breaks my mind. Like, guys, the mainstream media is telling you that anyone outside of Epstein and Maxwell being involved is a conspiracy theory. So I want to ask every single mainstream media reporter and anchor, did Epstein and Maxwell rape all of those girls? They were the only clients, they were the only ones who did it. Or do you think there are other people? The government says there are no other people. They put out a statement saying there is no one else and we're not going to prosecute anyone else. So which one is the conspiracy theory? That there was no one else or that there were other clients, other powerful clients? if you say that the conspiracy theory was that there were other clients, the government must be telling the truth that there were no other clients. Well, then you're not a reporter. You're just not. Like, go into a different line of business. Because if the government tells you you're from the planet Uranus and you write down, I am from Uranus, you're not a reporter, you're a moron.
Semaphor's Ben Smith is chastising those who keep over-analyzing the Epstein case. So you may be looking at our rundown here. Smith said the Epstein obsession, as he calls it, has turned into QAnon for people who went to college. That's a direct quote. And here's his point, that while Epstein's crimes were horrific and real, the conspiratorial narrative around him, a secret blackmail network targeting global elites, he says it's a dead end. Stop with that already. And we'll go deeper into his analysis, because here's the part that jumps out the most, to me anyway. If you spend an hour, you learn that there's just no evidence to support the core suggestion that Epstein, who did horribly abuse underage girls, also ran a child sex and blackmail ring that ensnared powerful men on behalf, naturally, of Mossad. 20 years of investigations, a decade of aggressive journalism has turned up 0 videos, no client list. Now, Smith goes on to argue that this obsession, as he puts it again, it's distracting from actual political strategy, and it's not even landing with voters. And we'll have more on recent polling about that coming up. But your initial thoughts on what Ben Smith has to say about this obsession, Mossad, theorizing about it?
Yeah. I mean, the critical word in that whole thing was Mossad. So Ben Smith doesn't want to talk about Mossad. Mainstream media doesn't want to talk about Mossad. All the people we're about to show you don't want to talk about Mossad. So nothing to see here, nothing to see. Come on. Ben's an otherwise pretty good journalist, as much as you can be in mainstream media. So for him to say, I mean, there's no evidence. So if you look into it, you'll see that there's no evidence. Yeah, because the government didn't release it. That's what the whole controversy is about. You're gonna just glide past that? Nah, Ben's a smart guy. Like, that didn't occur to you? Oh, we don't have the evidence because the government won't tell us? Okay, so is Ben saying that there's nothing to see here? That there was no other person who slept with the hundreds, and now some people are saying maybe 1,000 underage girls? Just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But otherwise, there's no evidence that a single other person did. Well, why did they pay out like nearly $500 million in payments in lawsuits? The banks did because they were covering it up. Prince Andrew paid a ton of money, etc. So even Prince Andrew didn't do it. Nobody did it. It was just Epstein. Now, if you're a real journalist, you can't believe that. And so for him to pretend like that, the central controversy is whether the government will release any of that evidence or not, just for him to say, I'll take the government's word. Well, they didn't release it, so there must be none. Well, if that's his standard for journalism, then I take back that he's a relatively good journalist, because that's a miserable level of journalism. And then he says, well, it's been thoroughly investigated by great journalists. Has it? There's a great piece that broke the story from a reporter that he quotes in Miami Herald, etc., and a couple of others that did a pretty good job. And I love that they did real journalism. Were the other publications all over Epstein? I mean, I remember covering it, because we're ancient, back in 2006 when he got arrested, right? And I don't remember other media organizations being like, who's on the list? What's going on? Why did he get a light sentence? Nothing. Maybe Ben Smith is seeing unbelievable record-breaking journalism from NBC and CBS and CNN and New York Times and Washington Post that I missed pre-2019. So I'm happy to see the dozens of articles where they just dug in and they wouldn't take no for an answer from the government. Here, Ben Smith is literally saying, yes, we should all take no for an answer from the government. Hey, can we have any evidence related to Epstein? No, good enough, perfect, no evidence, look away everybody. And so why Mossad? So that's one of the theories out there. We don't know because we don't have access to the evidence, right? But is it a legitimate theory that perhaps if there were people who participated in the rape of those underage girls, I mean, what do they think, Ghost did it? The girls did it to themselves. I mean, come on. It's an absurd. They have the conspiracy theory that the girls raped themselves. Okay, if you want to be a lunatic about it, sure, and destroy any credibility you have in real journalism, not mainstream media journalism, where you're like, oh, I do declare, I've checked with the government, and the government says I should be the stenographer, and nothing to look here. Okay, yeah, you want to do that kind of crap journalism that mainstream media does? Go ahead, you can do that your entire career, right? And you'll get nothing but bravo, right? But if you're an actual journalist and you want to dive into the story and figure it out, you don't go, well, the government didn't give me any evidence, so I guess there isn't any. Okay, so in this massive, what appears to be a conspiracy to cover up the hundreds of girls who were raped. Okay, so nobody did it. No one's gonna get prosecuted. When you look at that, and the government under both Democratic and Republican administrations are so intent on covering it up, and you don't wonder why, and you don't wonder if there might be an intelligence agency. First of all, CIA, that would be the first guess, right? Are you saying, if you're a journalist, are you saying there's no way the CIA would do that? They are way too moral. We shouldn't even ask. Let's move on already. Come on. You're making it obvious. You're making it super obvious. And then when you throw in, definitely not Mossad. Okay, I got it, Ben. I got it. It's crystal clear. And if it was just Ben Smith doing it, he's not only is he not the worst of them, he's generally a little bit better, right? So I'd be like, okay, whatever, it's not the end of the world. But now, as we're about to show you, Mark Levin, and last week we showed you Ben Shapiro, and a whole host of other people that are very, very pro-Israel. Nothing to see here, nothing to see at all. We should move on right away. Guys, I'm not saying it, you're saying, what's the panic about? If you said, hey, I think the government of Norway might be involved, I'd be like, oh, that's curious, but I don't mind looking into it. What's the big deal? Right? The government of Bolivia might be involved. I didn't see that coming. By the way, some people say maybe MI6 or Saudi Arabia. That seems less likely, but I don't know. Prince Andrew was involved, so it's not impossible, right? What is wrong with asking? Why do we all have to move on instantly? When you throw in definitely not Mossad, and every Israel supporter is intent on saying that, then you guys are doing something super weird that is drawing the attention of everyone else going, why are they in a weirdo cold sweat panic over this? It's like when you accuse someone of racism, or not someone of racism, when you talk about like the old Confederate generals were obviously racist. Some of them lynched black people, like hundreds of black people, right? And some guy jumps up and goes, I'm not racist. Well, brother, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about a Confederate general that died hundreds of years ago or 100 years ago, right? So you're kind of giving yourself away. So I'm really disappointed in Ben Smith in this total nonsense article where he's like jumping up and down going, move away, it's not Mossad. Okay, brother, you do you. All right, what else? Yeah. Who else is doing the same thing, Sharon?
Well, and let me just say, it felt like, and I'm not in his head, Ben Smith, but it felt like Mossad was that was the real point of this thing. He kind of just put some flowery stuff around it, if you want to call it that. And the other part of it is, look, when the Catholic priest-sex scandal happened, reporters dug and dug. There were government entities who slow-walked it or covered up a little bit, didn't want to go there, but they got to the truth. This just seems different, particularly that he's relying on the same reporters who didn't tell us before the election that it was like weekend at Bernie's at the White House, okay? These are the same reporters that weren't able to uncover anything. But anyway, yesterday, Mark Levin told House Speaker Mike Johnson that he wants Republicans to stop talking about the Epstein files saga. Here's the clip.
We have a lot to run on, and you have a lot to run against, given the other party. But I will tell you this, we better be united, we better be strong, we better be focused, we better be articulate. We can't waste our time on Epstein and other stuff that are going on here that some people want us to focus on. I'm about had it with all that stuff.
Mass pedophilia, okay, is, we don't have time for this, okay? There's other important matters. Meanwhile, over on CNN, Jake Tapper confronted Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar about the Epstein files. He wanted to know why she is so gung-ho about releasing the files now when the Democrats could have taken action during the Biden administration. Here's how that went down.
After the Miami Herald story broke in 2018, you said there was something not right in the Epstein case, but it's true that the president says there, Democrats didn't really seem to do anything about the Epstein files throughout the 4 years of the Biden administration. I mean, should you have? You sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Marsha Blackburn for years has been trying to get flight records and other information about Epstein released, and she seems to have been the only one on that committee trying to do so.
So the president blaming Democrats for this disaster, Jake, is like that CEO that got caught on camera blaming Coldplay, okay? Like, this is his making. He was president when Epstein got indicted for these charges and went to prison. He was president when Epstein committed suicide. And then there was another case, as you know, that continued during the Biden administration. But he was president back then.
Then there's Harry Anton, CNN. He argued last week that the ongoing Epstein files debate is not doing any political damage to Donald Trump. Let's show you that one.
All of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files, you might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
Is there any reason that you can find that this hasn't taken hold and hurt him?
Yeah, I mean, on X, all you hear about is the Epstein files. But how about out in the real public? Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One responded.
So, Cenk, you know, the quote unquote mainstream media has always moved as a pack. And I wonder what you think about whether they seem to be collectively trying to convince people to move on. We're moving on now. And what you make of that poll. So reactions. And Amy Klobuchar's analysis about how this is, you know, just like the Coldplay incident. It's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
We're going after it as we should.
So Jake Tapper with a good question. We'll come back to that one. So at least one guy doing a decent job out there. The CNN segment was embarrassing. Harry Anton does a lot of good segments with interesting polling, calling out both sides. I appreciate the honesty on that. This one was not one of them. So he takes out a poll that was out for, 1 or 2 days since the story broke and says it's definitive. Really, you're too good a pollster to say that. Now, you won't get the real numbers into terms of people's reactions until this week. So that was from last week. Yeah, story broke 3 hours ago. Nothing to see here. The polling is great. And then they literally now everybody remember, ignore everything online. Twitter isn't real, X isn't real, nothing, no social media is real, nothing. And then the second piece of, see, these things are obvious if you know politics and polling. So that's why the fact that they're doing this obfuscation makes me wonder. So then they say, well, they asked respondents, and no, only one respondent said that it was Epstein was the top issue. Yeah, a lot of people will say inflation is the top issue, immigration is the top issue. Those are things that monumentally affect your life, right? Maybe tariffs might be because they're causing inflation. So you don't need Epstein to be the #1 issue for people to care about it. So maybe it came in number 2 or number 3 for a lot of people, and that would be really telling. But we didn't get that information. We only got, it's not the #1 issue. It's not the #1 issue. So everything that everyone is saying is totally not true. Move away. See, that's what I'm saying, guys. If it was like 1 or 2 guys, like Ben Shapiro does it yesterday, I get it. Not yesterday, last week, right? And maybe one segment on cable, okay, fine. But almost all of mainstream media is moving in unison. And guys, there's no conspiracy. But my God, are they in a tiny little bubble? They're the kings of groupthink. They're like, everybody agrees, right? Time to move on, time to move on, time to move on, time to move on. They all say the same thing at the same time. These great journalists who are such independent thinkers. So that was an embarrassing segment. Jake Tapper, thank you, good question. Biden was in office for 4 years. How come you guys didn't release it? Klobuchar, come on, get out of here, Coldplay. Right? So wait, no, in that analogy, if that were true, Coldplay had the affair the week before, and then they're hypocritically pointing out the affair of the CEO. So that analogy doesn't even make any sense. She's not even trying to make sense. She's like, I got a good distraction. I said Coldplay, I'm so cool. No, you're not. Okay, no, you're not. So here's the reality for people who do actual journalism. Trump had 4 years to release the files the first time around. He didn't because he's never going to release them. He's super worried about them coming out, either because he's personally in them or his friends and donors are in them, or because it involves intelligence agencies. And then Biden gets in, he doesn't release them for 4 years. There's no excuse for it. You don't say, oh, well, yes, but I hate Republicans more, so Biden's 4 years of not releasing it doesn't count. No, it counts. Yes, were the Republicans more hypocritical about it? Absolutely, right? But did Biden release it? No, and that's my point. Both parties, and now Trump again, of course, won't release it. Both parties are like, oh, no way we're gonna release it. No way we're gonna tell you who raped hundreds of underage American girls. We're gonna let them all go. They haven't prosecuted a single one. So all those great journalists out there, and the one I'm most pissed at is Ben Smith, because he's supposed to be an actual reporter. Ben, how many people have been prosecuted for raping those girls outside of Maxwell and Epstein? How many? Oh, I did the math on it, 0. So don't tell me that there's no evidence and there's no big deal and we should move on. You're basically saying, oh, all those girls got raped. Who cares? Oh, they raped themselves or whatever lunatic conspiracy theory the government has come up with. But as long as the government comes up with it, I write it down right away. There's nothing to see here. There's no evidence at all. The girls raped themselves. No. I know you're not saying the girls raped themselves. Then tell me who the hell raped the girls. Who raped, like Epstein and Maxwell alone? Come on, it's embarrassing, especially if you're claiming to be a reporter. So it is clear that both parties completely covered up this list and these crimes, and both parties absolutely positively refuse to prosecute anyone outside of Epstein and Maxwell. And that is incredibly curious. If you don't think that's curious, you're not really a reporter.
I agree. How do you get the media, though, to go along with this? Is it the people who are whispering to them on both sides? Because there's still, regardless of what Anton said, there is considerable interest in this case. Whether it translates to cable news ratings, I don't know. But that's just an outstanding issue I have.
Yeah, no, look, honestly, for reporters, when the government says something, they're like, that is 200% true. We're all writing it down right away. Okay, but if an outsider has a point of view, they're like, that is definitely wrong. Let's go ahead and smear them. What did they do in 9th grade? Did they get, detention, 3 detentions in 9th grade? Oh, that's terrible. I've seen this movie 1,000 times, brothers and sisters. Don't tell me what the ending, I know the ending of the movie. The ending of the movie is everyone in media, in mass, mainstream media, goes, there is nothing to see here. The government is correct. The Democrats and the Republicans say there are no clients and the girls raped themselves. So that is obviously true. I'm such a good reporter. I have access to a lot of sources. And they all say the same thing. We're covering it up. I mean, nothing to see here.
You've answered my question, at least part of it. You definitely got 3 or more detentions. That I just know has to be true.
You kidding me, dog? I can't tell you the number of detentions I've had. You got to get to the suspensions before it gets interesting.
I'm asking right now. I'm asking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, if you think Donald Trump is covering up the Epstein stuff, what is it that you think he is covering up and why? Can you please just explain it? Seriously. You're the ones making the claim a cover-up is going on of such utter epic proportions that there must be a congressional resolution to pry the files out of these hands.
I haven't seen Ben Shapiro for a while. He's got quite a look going right now. But yesterday he was calling out all of the conservatives who are pushing for more answers on the Epstein files, particularly the ones that he mentioned there. According to him, they are attacking President Donald Trump without actually saying they're attacking President Donald Trump, as if that's what you have to do. But we have more clips where that came from. Cenk, what do you think about Shapiro and what he's saying about Representatives Greene and Massey?
Yeah, so there's a split within MAGA, obviously. And what's hilarious about this, Michael, is that every time Trump sides with one side over the other, they come in and go, that's it, Trump said it. Trump, everybody bow down to Trump.
Yeah.
And then, but once he flips, because he has flipped a couple of times, especially on the issue that Ben cares the most about, which is Israel, and apparently an adjacent issue, which is the Epstein files. He's the one that's like adamant about moving on from the Epstein files. That's fascinating, but different thing. So here, when
I don't
Trump,
know if the Epstein files are an adjacent issue.
yeah, that's an open question. Okay, so anyways, but Shapiro's, and what we talked about, Michael, on the show is both Shapiro and Levin, not others, but those two in particular, both said that they talked to Israeli government officials, and then the next day they come out and they're like, we got to move on. There's nothing happening with the Epstein files, right? Okay, you're like, all right. It's like a guy walking into a room going, I'm not gay. Okay, no one asked. But anyways, back to the main issue here. When Trump was disagreeing with Israel and he cut them out of the Hamas deal to get one of our hostages back, when he cut them out of the Houthi deal in Yemen, and when he was saying maybe we shouldn't bomb Iran, et cetera, that's when Shapiro was like, no way, this is wrong, this can't be. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey are like, see, Donald Trump said it, Donald Trump said it. Now that Trump bombed Iran and is back on Israel's side in their way of seeing it, right? In my opinion, being on Israel's side would be to get them to stop doing this so that they're not hated by the world, but okay. Back on Netanyahu's side, now Shapiro's like, that's it. Now you're going to be disloyal to Donald Trump and we're going to get you, okay? All right, brother, it's a very transparent trick. But what it covers up is the real split and why there is a split, which is what we'll talk about in a minute.
Right. It would be great if he was telling Greene and Massey that they're committing treason. If that was the thing that we just do all the time, anytime you disagree with Trump, yeah, it's treason. It's treason. So you water down what really treason is. There is, there's a little bit more here now that we can watch of Ben Shapiro going after what he calls pseudo MAGA.
Why, if you are a loyal Trumpist Republican, somebody who believes the president ought to succeed, are you doing this? Why are you fostering a conspiracy theory about Trump? Forget about Epstein, a conspiracy theory about a Trump cover-up that Democrats are currently pushing for political gain. Hey, let's be clear again on what pseudo-MAGA is doing here. I'm calling them pseudo-MAGA because Trump is the decider of MAGA. He's the person who created MAGA. He's the builder of MAGA. He's the definer of MAGA. Pseudo-MAGA are people who claim to speak on behalf of the MAGA movement, who represent a tiny sliver of the people who voted for Donald Trump. What are they actually attempting to do? What they are actually attempting to do, again, is seize control of the supposed MAGA movement from the only person who founded it and created it, Donald J. Trump. That is what is happening right now. There's clearly an attempt to attack Trump here. Why the attacks on Trump? That's the question I'm asking. Go after Epstein all you want, that's fine, but you are accusing Trump of a cover-up. So if you're accusing Trump of a cover-up, the question is, what's the theory? Or is it a cynical play to attempt to drive down Trump's favorables and seize control of the movement that he built? Because that's what it looks a lot like.
Well, Ben, if you're going to talk about the president's numbers, we're going to come back with a few, pieces of information about those numbers. Harry Enton at CNN is going to help us right now.
Trump's net approval rating. Look, he started off back in January +6 points on the net approval rating, -3 in March, -7 in May, and now he's at a term too low at -11 points. His net approval rating has dropped nearly 20 points in the aggregate since the beginning of his presidency.
Well, on what issues do the American voters seem to disapprove of him?
They disapprove of him on all of the issues. He's underwater on all the major issues of the day. Trump's net approval rating on all the major issues, -5 points in immigration, his best issue. He's underwater. How about the economy? That was what he was elected for. -14 points. How about foreign policy? -14 points. How about trade and those tariff wars? -15 points. And of course, the Epstein case, the lowest of the bunch, -37 points, 37 points below water.
But Harry, you said he's 37 points below water on Epstein. So I guess the president is humbled by that. Let's listen.
Republicans are doing well, and I have the best numbers I've ever had. It's amazing. I watch people on television. Well, what about Donald Trump's polling numbers? Yeah, they're the best numbers I've ever had. And with this made-up hoax that they're talking about, my numbers have gone up 4 and 5 points. They want to do anything to get us off the subject of making America great again.
Cenk, it's like we've talked about many, many times, and we get redundant on it, but I don't know what he's seeing and what he's doing, but whatever it does and whatever he says, it seems to work for him. But we heard Harry Enton say 37 down on Epstein.
So in this case, actually, Trump's, of course, over the top, and he's going to take one number and run with it. But I at least understand where he got that from. Ironically, he got it from Harry Enton. We covered it on the show a couple of days ago when Enton came out and was like, "Oh, the Epstein files, nothing to see here. Trump's numbers are holding steady. In fact, they've gone up with Republicans, right?" And I said on the show, you took that poll like 3 minutes after the Epstein files story broke. Why are you touting it as the Epstein files are not moving Trump's numbers? That's super weird. But they chose to do that for whatever reason. Now I said, well, let's see if I'm right, because I bet you the next set of polls that'll come out will show you that he's significantly underwater on Epstein. I think minus 37 counts. So yeah, because guys, it's not that complicated. There's a lot of folks who live in la la land who think, no, every Trump voter is a cultist, or they will never ever disagree with him on anything. I don't know if anybody's still holding on to that, right? I know that people said that for 6-7 months straight. I don't know if they're still holding on to that fantasy. But in the real world, yeah, Trump voters were on the issue of Epstein, were bailing at a record rate, right? And so now you see it with your own eyes, negative 37. Who was right and who was wrong, okay? So now, Trump is quoting the old Enton piece from a couple of days ago. He's like, oh, my poll numbers are great. Brother, hold on, you haven't seen him yet.
But he was saying that after these numbers came out. The president was saying that after.
Yeah, number one, I don't know that he saw these numbers. Number two, that's where the serial liar comes in.
Right, of course it does. And I never believe there's a number that comes out that he doesn't see.
Yeah, so, but he's only going to quote the positive
Of course he's going to. Right. And one thing to what you just said, Cenk, is when Zephyr and I went out on the road a lot during this last election, many of the MAGA people we would speak to out there, and I'm sure we have tons of it, I don't know if we cut it into a clip or not, of them saying, when it came to Epstein, they didn't like that anything having to do with Trump and Epstein. They didn't believe it, but they really didn't like it. And if that came out, I'd have to rethink it, and none of it came out.
And here we are.
And here we are.
It's almost like listening to the other side is part of journalism. It allows you to figure out what's going to happen. Oh, okay, so, but bottom line here on two things. Number one, I listened to the whole Shapiro segment, so you didn't have to. And his explanation for all of this is because you think, wait, but why would Marjorie Taylor Greene want to undermine Donald Trump? That doesn't make sense. Massey and Trump are fighting now, so that might make more sense. But why MTG? Why, right? And because it's a political ploy to undermine Donald Trump and steal his MAGA base for their own purposes. But Marjorie Taylor Greene agrees with Donald Trump 99% of the time. What own purposes? And what? Because she'd want to run for president? Okay, I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, it's crazy that she'd win, but it's not crazy that she'd think she could run, right? But then why would you want to undermine Trump? You'd want to support Trump if you're going to run in a Republican primary. The very last thing you'd want to do is seem like you're opposed to Trump. So that makes no sense at all. What makes sense is that their base, their actual voters, are telling Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, you better investigate this, and I don't give a goddamn if it involves Trump, right?
Right.
And that's what they're responding to, and that's the far more logical explanation. But again, we go back to the topic of adjacent or not adjacent. This is the Epstein files. Why is Shapiro so insistent that we not talk about it? It's weird. Because it's not, because the others are like, I see all the other hosts. All the other hosts are like, well, it's uncomfortable, but of course we want to see the Epstein files, but Daddy Trump, and they're torn, right? I've seen that now many, many times, right? Shapiro, not at all torn. You do not want to see the Epstein files, which makes me think, okay, yes, but why? What do you know that we don't know?
Well, not to mention that Brian Glenn is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, and he's sort of the big figure in very far right media, from OAN to Right Side Broadcasting Network, which is, I think, I may be wrong about this, but his brainchild, or he's a big figure in it. And he knows what, almost probably more than the Congresswoman herself, what the MAGA base, to whom they appeal almost exclusively, or I would say exclusively, what they're thinking. And on this particular issue, he probably knows exactly what they're telling him and to his reporters and his anchors about the Epstein case. And that I'm sure has some motivation to what the position that Representative Green is taking.
Yeah, and last thing is, if his bottom line argument is, and it appears to be that it is this, that it's pseudo-MAGA to demand the Epstein files. That is gonna come as a huge surprise to MAGA. So I would love for Ben Shapiro to present evidence to us of MAGA going, I don't want to see the Epstein files. No one should see them. Who cares about pedophilia among the powerful elites? We don't care at all. Bury it. Show us the tape, Ben. Other than you, show me one other actual, well, not other than you, you're not actual MAGA. I mean, it's so ironic. You want to talk about a pseudo MAGA, the guy was never Trump guy in the first place, right? And by the way, he's telling on himself. Sometimes people agree with Trump and then try to undermine him to steal his base. Who might that be, Ben? Interesting. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.